Welcome back to RBD Block Challenge. I'm Cindy Cloward, and today we are working on block number 6. It's called Starburst, and it's designed by Elliot. This is what it looks like in our confetti cottons, and let me show you what it looks like in our batiks. It's a little bluer in this version, equally as beautiful. I like that pop of peacock blue, but today I'm working with our confetti cottons. And again, like always, you need to download the pattern from the Riley Blake Designs website, block number 6. And there's a new technique in this that I'm going to take you through today. So I recommend, instead of printing on front and back, to print the back on a separate page, because you're going to need to cut out a small template. This is something new. This is what the template looks like, and it's on the second page. So if you print on 2 pages, you're not going to be cutting out your pattern. So I'm going to put the pattern to the side, and we're going to get started. Some of the techniques I'm going to show you today are very familiar from what we've done with other blocks, but this is a new technique that I'm going to take you through. In fact, I had to learn it myself. I like the twist from Elliot. So let's get started on this quilt block, and I'm going to take you through step by step. It has you start with making half square triangles. Now there's 8 half square triangles in this quilt block, and it's the 2 at a time method. So I'm going to have you make, in step 2 and 3 are half square triangles. I'm going to have you combine all together and chain paste them. So we're going to start with our F and B squares, and you're going to mark corner to corner if you don't have a Seam Sew Easy guide, and that is going to be your sew guide. You are not going to stitch on that. So if you don't have a Seam Sew Easy guide, I'll just mark them for you. So we've done this before, and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side of that line, and those are ready to go. And I'm going to take my G squares and my D squares, and you're going to do the same thing. Mark corner to corner if you don't have a Seam Sew Easy guide, and that is going to be your guide, and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side. So let's take these to the machine. Again, it's the 2 at a time method, and we're going to knock out all these half square triangles. And this is how I use my Seam Sew Easy guide. I put the corner on the side of my foot and line it up with the bottom on the outside, and that gives me an accurate 1/4 inch from the center of that square. Okay. We've sewn down one side. I just flip this over. I'm going to sew down the other. Again, I'm going to just line that that foot on that corner right there. And we're going to, since I've got my 1/4 inch foot here, we're just going to sew down. Okay, let's bring it over to our cutting station and snip through our threads. Now we're going to get our 1/4 inch plus ruler and trim down. Now these are going to be slightly larger than 2.5 inches, and then we're going to have you square them down so you've got a really accurate half square triangle. Now the plus on this ruler means you can cut your dog ears off. So I'm going to get my rotating mat. Sometimes that's easier. And you just line the top angle here and a 1/4 inch here. The one thing you don't want to do is when you're using this little 1/4" plus corner right here is cut into your threads. So make sure you've got that all lined up. I cut through like that, and just turn it. And there's one dog ear cut off. Again, I line that up, flip it over, and cut my other dog ear. If you do start cutting into your threads, then you get this weird little cut there. So just make sure you're avoiding cutting into your threads when you're cutting off your dog ears. Just line that up. There we go. We have the markings to line up those angles, so I'm just getting it right there. There we go. And we're gonna just repeat this for all of our half square triangles that we've made 2 at a time. Cut down the center. Okay, got lots of little scraps. Let's take this over to the pressing station. I'm gonna give you some pressing tips. So this is gonna be for our center unit. So I'm gonna separate those. And I'm gonna just press these all at once. And I'm just gonna press to the dark side. Generally, it's always pressed to the dark side unless you have a tip not to press to the dark side. Okay, now these we're gonna do 2 and 2. 2 are gonna go to the dark, and then 2 are gonna go to the light. And that's so we can nest our seams later. So that's going to the light. Then we'll do another one to the light. And then these are going to the dark. And then let's bring this over to our cutting station, and we are going to trim them down to 2.5 inches. This is a really important step you don't want to miss, because your block's gonna not be accurate if you skip this step. So this is a cute little cute cut trim it ruler, and I line that center seam up with this line here, and I kind of pull it into the corner. So I just have to trim off 2 sides and not all 4 sides. So you can see we gave you extra fabric to trim down to, which I always prefer because sometimes I'm not so accurate in sewing. And so I want to trim down and make my little unit, my little half square triangle, accurate before I go on to the next step. I think I'm going to have to trim that side and this side, and we're good to go. Now I am sewing a scant 1/4 inch on some of these, so I've got plenty of room in my block. I'm going to put these units to the side. We'll work on them in a minute. And the next thing we're going to work on is this unit right here. And I've already created 2 of the units. And so I'm just going to make 2 more. We'll have a little extra, just saving a little bit of time. So take a look at your pattern, and all the units are sewn the same way. So we're going to put these 2 C rectangles on one side. And then we've also got these 2 little H squares that we're going to put on the other side. So I do kind of just chain piece them together. And I can just take this little mat over here. I'm just going to line them up. This is how I did my original block, all 4 at a time. We're just sewing 2 at a time, but you can just I'm going to chain piece and sew this, and then chain piece the next one and sew the last one together, just like this. Again, just a scant 1/4 inch. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm just gonna clip through. I've got 2 and 2, and I'm not clipping through the other 2 units because that's gonna make 1 unit together. I'm gonna take it over to my pressing station, kind of open it up, and I'm gonna finger press this direction, and then that I'm gonna finger press to the white. And so, and I don't even need to press, I just can finger press it. So see how beautifully that nests together? I'm gonna put in a pin right here, like that. I'm gonna do the same thing here. You can finger press it that direction, actually that direction. And then I'm going to finger press this the opposite direction. Okay, put a pin in it, and let's take it to our machine and sew. All right, clip through those 2 units. We're ready to press it open. Give it a good press. So we'll finish these last 2. All right, doesn't that look nice? Now just do a quick check. They should measure 3.5 inches. Just make sure that's accurate. Now there's just a slight little elbow there. I'm just gonna trim that off. Again, anything outside, everything's lined up. Again, just that little elbow right there. It's good to make sure it's the accurate size. Okay, let me clean up our cutting station. I'm going to put this underneath here. And then we've got all of our 4 units. We're gonna put them to the side, work on them later, and the next thing we need to do is this center unit right here. The next thing we need to create is this one. Now you're gonna be glad that half of them are pressed to the light and half of them are pressed to the dark so that they line up. You can nest your seams. So this is light there, this is dark there, and the dark goes around just like this, around the outside. So that's what we're going to need to create. And so we've got that pressed to the dark side on one unit and the other is pressed to the light. And so do you see how beautifully those seams nest right there? So I'm going to throw a pin in that. And then that needs to go to the dark. So these 2 units are going to be nested on the bottom. So I'm going to put a pin in the bottom and the top. I'm going to take these to the machine and sew to chain piece at the same time. right, let's take a look. We're opening them up, and this is what we want to see. We want to see those seams meeting at the point. They're perfectly nested, so that looks perfect. And the same on the top. Now we're going to fold them over, and we have one last seam. And again, we'll just nest that center seam there. Put a pin right there. And then look how beautifully those are going to nest as well. The two corners. So I'm going to add a pin there. And then a pin on the opposite side. Okay, let's take it to the machine and sew. All right, let's open it up. And doesn't that look great? Let's take it to our pressing station. And those four corners are just lined up perfectly. Let's take it back here and just make sure it measures 4.5 inches. Make sure that's accurate. Flip that over. And it is looking great. Just line up all your points, and there should be a 1/4 inch there, so when you sew it into the center of your block, those points don't get cut off, and it looks great. Okay, the next step, we're gonna put this to the side, is that new technique I'm gonna talk to you about. So this unit, it looks just like an interesting half square triangle, but there's a special technique that goes along with this. We're gonna make 4 going this direction and then 4 the mirror opposite. So this is the time where you're gonna need to cut out that template. So if you've got a second page, this is what it looks like. And it's gonna be important that you check this template. It says print at 100%, and this square should measure 1 inch. So make sure you get out a little ruler and it measures 1 inch, because this is important that that's gonna be accurate size. So I've already cut this out, and this is our template. We haven't really worked with templates on our RBD block challenge before, so I like showing a new technique, something I had to learn myself. So then we're going to make 4 units that are facing this direction. So this time I'm gonna highly recommend, well, I recommend that you mark this corner to corner. You can't just use your Seam So Easy guide for this. And I'm gonna grab my ruler, and we're gonna mark this corner to corner. Like that. And this is going to be your guide. So corner to corner the long way. These two are the same, and then I'm going to do the opposite on that. I'm going to wait on that. Okay, then the next thing, we're taking our E squares, and they're going to be offset. So again, make sure you're watching how you're doing it, and look, we do this kind of twist. So this is going to be corner to corner, and take a look. I'm going to throw a pin on it. And then this is going to be the same, and then that's going to be corner to corner. You're going to line up your marked white piece of fabric, and that's what it's going to look like. And then you've got your guide, and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side of this. So we're going to take these 2 units, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch on each side. I'm going to meet you back here. Okay, let's bring it back to our cutting station, clip our threads, and that marked line in the middle is going to be our cut line. All right, cut this again. Okay, and all 4 units should be the same like that. So let's take it to our pressing station, and we're gonna open it up and press this before I show you the next step. Okay, so these are all going to go, we can press them to the dark side. And our next units we're gonna press to the light. All right, those cool off slightly. And this is where we're gonna bring in our template. And again, I kind of like having my paper right in front of me, so I'm doing it accurate the first time. This is where we have our template here, and we've got these little corner, and it shows you for this first section, section number 6, we're going to line the tip of this template on this side and the tip down here. And it's like a little off-centered on the block. So it's going to look like that. And then I'm going to take my 1/4 inch plus ruler, and it also helps keep that template pushed down, and I'm going to line that up on the side, and I'm going to use that to cut out this unit with the template. So I kind of pull it up here like that, and just kind of line that up. And I'm just so careful to be accurate. I don't want to really be cutting off any of that paper. Just going to pull that down like that. There is that notch in the corner, but your blade's so long as you're just cutting straight, it's not a problem to have that notch right there. And this is what you're creating. So you've got those corners, and we're going to repeat that and have 4 of these. Again, just a little twist, something I've never done before on a quilt block, so I'm learning something new too. And again, it just takes time to perfect this process, but I love how it came together so easily. Okay. This one is done. Look at that. Okay, let's get ready for the next one, this next unit, which is going to be the mirror opposite. So I had already marked this one, and let's just make sure the other one is marked just the same. That's why it's good to do each of these units separately, so you don't get yourself confused. Then we're going to grab that one, and then it's going to go like this. So it's flipped opposite. Let me grab my pins. I'm going to pin that. And we can make sure they're doing them the exact same way. Again, our marked line is going to be our guide. We're going to sew 1/4 inch on each side. All right, let's take it to our cutting station, and we are going to trim down, well, not trim down, just cut down the center, and then we'll take them to our pressing station, press it open, and come back here and make our final 4 units. Okay, these I'm going to press to the white, to the light side, depending on what fabrics you're using. All right, let's take them back here. Let's grab our template. Now, again, follow your instructions because this is how it's going to be tipped. So the white's on top, the teal's on bottom, and it's tipped this direction, which is opposite. Grab our 1/4 inch plus. And again, it's just so great that this is the exact same size as the template. It's almost like we planned it that way. Okay, we're all finished with the template. Let me clean up this space. And now we're going to take all these units facing this way. Oh, looks like we got a little dog ear here. That's going, and then these are the opposite. And we're going to take them to our sewing machine and we're going to sew them together like this. Actually, like that. Let's make sure we have the flipping the right direction. The white, it's going to make a white V. And so you're going to flip it over like this. And you are going to nest those seams. I'm going to pin at the top. I'm just going to pin them all. Make sure they're going the right direction. Again, because you press those seams opposite, it's going to nest beautifully. All right, let's go sew. All right, let's just do a quick check. Looking so good. Let's clip our threads in between and then we're gonna take them. Actually, I'm not gonna press them at this point. I'm just gonna open them up because we might want the seams to go a different direction depending on where this seam is right there. So let's take this over here. I'm going to put our extra units down here and we can start assembling our quilt block. This is the center. These are the outside corners. Got that teal on every corner. Similar to our last block where we had those units in the corners. And it's kind of like a long flying geese. It's flying into the center like that. There we go. So I'm gonna assemble this in rows or columns, whatever you want to call it. And you can throw a pin in there if you wish, or you can take it to the machine and just start sewing down the side. I am going to pin this. So this is pressed this direction. So I'm going to finger press this unit the opposite direction. That's why I chose not to take it to the pressing station because I didn't know which direction I wanted that to flip to. So that's going there, and then that flips over. So let's take this to the machine. Let's sew down our sides. Okay, let's bring it back to our design board, open it up, make sure everything's still going the right direction. And then we're gonna flip these sides over here. And then since I'm gonna sew it from this side, I'm gonna flip my board over and then add my pins this time because I haven't cut my threads in between these rows. And so I'm gonna look which way that's pressed. Let's press that direction. So I'm gonna finger press this unit going opposite, and I'm gonna pin that in place right there. And I'm gonna pin that there. Okay, let's sew down this side. Okay, let's open it up. Take a look, it's coming together. I'm gonna flip the top over the center row. We're gonna nest those seams. Let's see, which way do we wanna go? I am gonna go this direction. There we go. And this is coming together so well. We just take it step by step, not rush it. We're gonna have beautiful results. The last two seams we need to nest, but oh, I need to nest that center seam as well. Again, just see where that seam is going. That's going that direction, so I'm gonna flip that opposite, and I am gonna put a pin in the center there, and then over here. And all of our seams are nesting so beautifully. It's like a puzzle for me. Which way to flip my seam, to press my seam so it fits together like a puzzle. Okay, let's sew these last two seams. Okay, let's take it to our pressing station, open it up. This is exactly what we want to see, these points lining up, and then we're not cutting off our points in the center. So let's give everything a good press. Look how beautiful this block is coming together. I'll move this to the side. Again, all our points are just lining up. And let's take a look. Let's see how we did. And it's looking so good. I do highly recommend a scant 1/4 inch seam because you've got a lot of seams. And if you're taking a generous seam, it's gonna be smaller. But this turned out great. So I loved creating this block, and I learned something new myself on using a template, creating that long flying geese. And I hope you enjoyed creating this block with me too. Give us a comment, give us a shout out if you learned something new on this block. So thanks for joining us for block number 6, Stardust by Amber Elliot. I can't wait to see Amber Elliott's block with her fabric. But join us next time for block number 7. It's called Irish Spring by Vicki McCarty.